The city never slept, but that night, even the streets felt tired. Rain poured over Lena Hayes as she rushed from her shift at a cheap diner, shoes soaked, paycheck barely enough to cover next week's rent. She pulled her thin jacket tighter and muttered, "Just one break, that's all I need." Then she saw it. A black leather wallet, lying on the wet pavement beneath a flickering streetlight. Curious, she bent to pick it up. It was heavy. Expensive. Inside, crisp bills, black credit cards, a gleaming ID card that made her heart skip. Alessandro Moretti. She'd heard that name whispered in fear, the mafia boss who ruled the city's underworld. Her first instinct screamed, "Drop it and walk away." Her second whispered, "Keep it." That much cash could change her life. Pay her debts. Buy food. Freedom. But something inside her refused. Maybe it was how her mother raised her, maybe it was just conscience, but she couldn't steal. She sighed, whispering to the night, "You're gonna regret this, Lena," and slipped the wallet into her bag. The next morning she stood in front of tall black iron gates, the Moretti estate. Two men in suits stared her down, hands near their guns. I found this last night," she said, holding out the wallet. "I came to return it." They exchanged looks before one disappeared through the gate. Minutes later the doors opened, revealing Alessandro Moretti himself. Sharp suit, dark eyes, calm but dangerous energy. He looked her up and down, drenched student clothes, trembling fingers, tired eyes. Then a low voice. "You could have kept it. Why didn't you?" "Because it wasn't mine," she said softly. A flicker, barely a shadow of surprise crossed his face. He took the wallet, dismissed his guards, and stepped closer. "You're either very honest," he murmured, "or very stupid." Lena managed a weak smile. "Maybe both." For a long moment they stood in silence. Then he said the words that would change everything. "Come back tomorrow. I have a feeling your luck's about to change." The next day, Lena almost convinced herself not to go. It's stupid, she thought, pacing in her tiny apartment. "He's dangerous. You did the right thing, just leave it." But curiosity, and something else she couldn't name, pulled her back to the mansion. When the black gates opened this time, the guards didn't stop her. One even nodded respectfully before leading her inside. The moment she stepped through the massive oak doors, Lena's breath caught. The interior was pure luxury, marble floors, gold trim, and silence thick enough to make her heartbeat sound loud. Alessandro sat behind a glass desk, reading a file. He didn't look up right away. When he finally did, those dark eyes pinned her in place. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said. "You told me to," Lena replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. He smirked slightly, motioning for her to sit. "Do you always do what strangers tell you?" "Only the scary ones," she shot back before realizing what she'd said. A soft, almost invisible laugh escaped him. The guards exchanged glances. They'd never heard their boss laugh at all. He studied her for a moment. "You're a student?" "Yes. Counting major. Last year." "Struggling?" he asked, tone calm but piercing. Lena hesitated, then nodded. "Sometimes honesty doesn't pay bills." Alessandro leaned back, watching her closely. "Honesty," he repeated. "A rare currency." He pulled something from his drawer, the same wallet she'd returned. "You could have taken what was inside. No one would have known. But you didn't." "Because I wanted to sleep at night," she said quietly. His gaze softened just slightly, then hardened again. "I don't like debts," he said finally. "So let me repay you. Come work for me. Temporarily. I could use someone honest." Lena blinked. "Work for you?" "Relax," Alessandro said, voice low but commanding. "No crimes. Just numbers." It sounded simple, but nothing about him felt safe. Still, when he stood and offered his hand, she found herself taking it. His grip was firm, his eyes unreadable. "Welcome to my world, Miss Hayes," he said. And as their hands touched, Lena felt something stir. Danger, and something dangerously close to attraction. Lena's first day at the Moretti estate felt like stepping into another world, one built on whispered orders and unseen power. Everyone moved carefully, as if afraid of being noticed. Alessandro's office was on the top floor, overlooking the city. It was beautiful, and cold. Just like him. He glanced up from his paperwork as she entered. "You're punctual," he said. "I figured lateness doesn't go well with the mafia," she replied. His lips curved slightly, half amusement, half warning. "You learn fast." She handed him the reports he'd asked for, numbers from one of his legitimate companies. He skimmed through them silently, then looked up. "You have a good eye for detail. These mistakes here," he said, tapping the page, have been costing me thousands. I just double-checked the math, she said softly. That's the difference between surviving and dying in my world, he murmured. The words sent a chill down her spine. For the next few days she worked quietly, balancing books, organizing files, and pretending not to notice the men with guns walking the halls. But Alessandro noticed her. The way she focused, the way she never flinched when he entered a room. She didn't fear him like others did. And that unsettled him. One evening he stopped by her desk. "You're still here?" Lena looked up, surprised. "Just finishing up." He leaned on the table, watching her closely. "Tell me something, Lena. Why did you really return that wallet? Most people in your position wouldn't have." She hesitated. "Because, if I lost something that mattered, I'd hope someone would do the same." He studied her as if trying to find the lie, but there wasn't one. "Tomorrow," he said, straightening, "you'll come with me to the city. There's a meeting I want you to sit in on." "Why me?" "Because I trust numbers," he said quietly. "And I'm starting to think I can trust you too." Her pulse quickened. She didn't know whether to feel honored or terrified. As he walked away, the thought hit her hard. She wasn't just working for him anymore. She was getting pulled into him. The next day, Lena sat quietly in the back seat of Alessandro's sleek black car. The city lights blurred past, her reflection trembling in the tinted glass. Beside her, Alessandro scrolled through his phone, silent as ever. Every now and then his gaze flicked toward her, subtle, unreadable. They arrived at an upscale restaurant where men in suits stood waiting. Their smiles were fake, their eyes sharp. Lena felt the weight of danger in the air. "Stay close," Alessandro murmured as he guided her in. His hand brushed her back, protective but possessive. The touch sent a strange warmth through her chest. At the table, she noticed something. The numbers in the documents didn't match what she'd reviewed. When she leaned close to whisper it to him, Alessandro's eyes darkened. Not at her, but at the lie she'd just uncovered. After the meeting, silence filled the car. Then in a low voice he said, "You saw it, didn't you? The fake invoices?" "Yes," she said, nervous. "Good." He exhaled slowly. "You're smarter than most men. I pay double your salary." Lena blinked. "Then maybe you're paying the wrong people." He turned to her, and for the first time she saw something behind the stoic expression: admiration. Maybe even pride. Later that night, back at the mansion, Alessandro called her into his office again. The room was dim, the city glowing faintly through the glass. "You're not like the others," he said quietly. "Everyone wants something from me. Money, power. But you—" "I just want to survive," she interrupted softly. He moved closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't even realize how rare that is." For a heartbeat, they stood inches apart, silence humming between them. His cologne, dark and clean, wrapped around her. Her pulse quickened. Then he stepped back suddenly as if catching himself. "Go home, Lena," he said, turning away. "Before I forget who I am." She left the room, heart pounding. She didn't know what scared her more, his world, or the way she was starting to fall for him. A week later, Alessandro insisted on taking Lena with him to a late-night business meeting. "Routine," he said. But nothing in his world was ever routine. The warehouse smelled of oil and rain. Men greeted him with forced smiles, tension thick in the air. Lena waited by the car, hands clutching her bag, the drizzle soaking her hair. She tried to ignore the sound of raised voices inside. Then, gunfire. Panic flashed through her veins. Without thinking, she ran toward the noise. Inside, chaos exploded, bodies ducking for cover, flashes of light, shouting. Alessandro stood behind a crate, firing back. "Lena, get down," he roared, but it was too late. One of the attackers aimed at him. And she moved before she could stop herself. A shot rang out. Pain burned through her arm. She fell, gasping. Alessandro's world stopped. He shot the gunman down, sprinted to her side, and pulled her against his chest. "Lena, stay with me," he ordered, voice cracking. "I'm fine," she whispered, blood staining her sleeve. "It's just—" "Don't you dare lie to me," he hissed, pressing his hand over the wound, his own trembling. The drive back was a blur. He carried her into the mansion himself, ignoring everyone's stares, barking orders for a doctor. When it was over and the bandage was set, he stayed by her bedside, sleeves rolled up, face unreadable. "You could have died," he said softly. "So could you," she murmured back. "You're welcome." For the first time, Alessandro laughed, a low, broken sound. His fingers brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You're impossible." "Maybe," she breathed, "but you're alive." Their eyes met. No guards, no guns, just silence heavy with everything unspoken. He leaned closer, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "Don't ever risk yourself for me again." "Then stop giving me reasons to," she replied. He froze, then smiled faintly, the kind of smile that only comes when a man realizes he's already lost his heart. Lena's wound healed, but the memory of Alessandro's trembling hands didn't. He checked on her every day, always pretending it was business. Yet every glance lingered a little too long. One night, she found him alone on the terrace, jacket off, sleeves rolled, smoke curling from the cigar between his fingers. The city glittered far below, 1,000 lights for a man who couldn't sleep. "You shouldn't be out here," he said without turning. "And you shouldn't be smoking," she answered. He half smiled. "You're the only one who talks to me like that." Lena stepped closer, the wind lifting her hair. "Maybe everyone else is too scared. Maybe they should be." His voice dropped low, rough. "I've done things that don't deserve forgiveness." She studied him quietly. "Then stop doing them." He laughed once, soft, bitter. "You make it sound that simple." "It is," she said. "If you really want to change." He turned then, eyes dark and unguarded. "Change?" he repeated. "Since the day you walked into my house, I haven't been able to think straight. I start meetings thinking of your voice. I walk into danger wondering if you'll be there to save me again." Lena's breath caught. "Alessandro." He took a step forward. "You should leave. You don't belong in my world. But if you stay," his hand brushed her cheek, tentative, reverent, "I won't be able to let you go." For a moment, the world shrank to the space between them, her heart racing, his eyes searching. She could smell the rain, the smoke, the fear of wanting something forbidden. Then he kissed her, gentle at first, then deeper, desperate, as though he'd been starving for it. She didn't pull away. When he finally did, his voice was unsteady. "This is the mistake I can't take back." Lena touched his face, whispering, "Then maybe it's not a mistake." For a few fragile weeks, life inside the Moretti mansion felt almost normal. Lena laughed more, Alessandro smiled more. The guards learned to look away when she brought him coffee at midnight. The world outside was still cruel, but inside those walls, something gentle had begun to grow. Then it shattered. One morning, Alessandro burst into his office, fury in his eyes. A briefcase filled with cash, meant for a deal, was gone. Surveillance showed only one person near the vault. Lena. "She's been playing you," sneered Marco, Alessandro's lieutenant. "She copied your keys. Check the footage yourself." The video was blurry, but the outline looked damning. Alessandro's jaw clenched, disbelief warred with the ache in his chest. "No," he muttered, "she wouldn't." When Lena entered later, smiling shyly, he slammed the desk. "Where were you last night?" She froze. "Here. Working." "Why?" "Don't lie to me." His voice cracked like thunder. "You think I'd never find out?" Tears burned behind her eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about." He stepped closer, anger masking hurt. "I trusted you." Lena's voice broke. "And I loved you." The room fell silent. Her confession hung between them, trembling and raw. But Alessandro turned away. "Get out," he said coldly. "Before I forget what you mean to me." She stared at him, at the man who once kissed her like she was his salvation, and walked out without another word. That night, Alessandro sat alone in the dark office, replaying the footage again and again. Something didn't add up. The timestamp. The shadow. The missing frame. And then he saw it, Marco's reflection in the corner mirror, holding Lena's ID card. The realization hit like a bullet. He'd thrown away the only person who had ever been honest with him. Alessandro slammed his fist into the desk, whispering her name like a prayer and a curse all at once. By the time Alessandro discovered the truth, Lena was gone. Marco had moved fast, spinning a story that she'd stolen money and fled. In reality, he had her locked in an abandoned dockyard outside the city, bound to a chair, the river's chill creeping into her bones. "You should have stayed away from him," Marco hissed, circling her like a predator. "You made him weak." Lena glared up, bruised but defiant. "Wait, we're human." He laughed. "Doesn't matter. Once you're gone, he'll be mine to control again." Far across the city, Alessandro roared through the night in his black Maserati, rain hammering the windshield. His knuckles were white around the steering wheel, jaw set, eyes burning with regret and rage. He'd listened to Marco's lies. He'd doubted her. And now he was going to fix it, no matter who had to die. When he reached the docks, the wind carried the sound of her voice. That one sound broke him. He burst through the door, gun raised. "Marco." The lieutenant spun around, weapon drawn. boss. The shot came first. Alessandro didn't hesitate. Marco fell, shock frozen on his face. Alessandro crossed the room in seconds, cutting Lena free. Her wrists were raw, her eyes wide in disbelief. "You came," she whispered. He cupped her face gently, voice shaking. "I never should have let you go." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "You believed him." "I know," he rasped. "And I'll never forgive myself for it." She leaned into him, trembling. "Then start by never leaving again." For the first time he didn't fight it. He pulled her close, holding her like she was something sacred. Outside, sirens wailed faintly, but inside that broken dockyard, there was only silence, the kind that follows when a man chooses love over power. Alessandro pressed his forehead to hers. "It's over," he whispered. Lena smiled faintly. "No," she said. "It's just beginning." The city slept uneasily after the docks burned that night. News spread fast. Marco Moretti, heir apparent of the Moretti family, was dead, shot by his own boss. Alessandro's world was suddenly quieter. No more lies. No more betrayals. But peace came at a price. The other families wanted answers. They wanted blood. And Lena, for the first time, saw what it meant to love a man like him. She watched from the shadows of his study as he met with men in black suits, all loyalty and deceit tangled together. Every decision he made, every threat he issued was to keep her safe. When they were finally alone, she whispered, "They'll come for you." He looked up, exhausted but certain. "Let them. You can't fight everyone, Alessandro." "I can try." He reached for her hand, his fingers rough, hers soft. "But if something happens to me?" She shook her head violently. Don't say that." He smiled sadly. "Then promise me you'll live. Promise me you won't look back." Tears welled in her eyes. "You think I can live in a world without you?" He stood, pulling her into his arms. "I never wanted you in my world to begin with. But you brought me here," she whispered. "And I'm not leaving." That night, as thunder rolled over the city, Lena lay beside him, her head on his chest. His heartbeat was steady, strong, yet beneath it she could feel the tension, the quiet war he fought inside. Outside, headlights appeared at the edge of the estate. Shadows moved through the rain. The war had come to their doorstep. Alessandro rose silently, kissed her forehead, and reached for his gun. "Stay here," he murmured. Lena's hand caught his wrist. "If you go," she said, voice trembling, "you don't go alone." He looked at her, this brave, stubborn girl who had returned a lost wallet and stolen his heart, and nodded once. "Then we face it together." The night erupted in gunfire. Headlights sliced through the rain as black cars screeched into the courtyard. Alessandro's men took cover, returning fire, but the enemy was relentless, old rivals hungry for revenge. Inside the mansion, Lena refused to hide. She tore through the hallways until she found him, Alessandro, firing from behind a marble pillar, blood already staining his shirt. "Alessandro," she screamed. He turned, eyes wild. "Lena, go back. Not without you." She grabbed a fallen pistol and crouched beside him, hands shaking. Bullets shattered glass above them, spraying shards like stars. "You shouldn't be here," he growled, pulling her close behind him. "Neither should you," she shot back, voice trembling. "But here we are." He almost smiled, even as pain flickered across his face. "You drive me insane, you know that?" "I'll take that as a compliment." Then for one heartbeat the world stilled. He looked at her, really looked. The girl who'd walked into his life with nothing but honesty. The one person who made him want to be more than a monster. "I love you," he said softly, the words almost lost beneath the thunder. Tears blurred her vision. "Then don't you dare die on me." He pressed something into her hand, a small black key. "If I don't make it, take this. It's freedom. Money. Everything. Go far away." "I'm not leaving," she whispered fiercely. "Not this time." When the last of the gunfire faded, Alessandro lay slumped against the wall, bleeding but alive. His men had won. The courtyard was silent again. Lena knelt beside him, cradling his face. "You kept your promise," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "And you broke every rule I ever made. Guess that makes us even." They laughed through tears, the sound small and raw but real. As dawn broke over the ruined mansion, Alessandro took her hand, pressing a kiss to her fingers. "No more hiding," he murmured. "No more lies. Just us." And for the first time neither of them ran.